Sunday, March 26th, 2023. Some people find comfort in the ordinary. I've always been attracted to the strange and the bizarre. And I share these discoveries with like-minded people. Tourists of the unknown, I guess you could call us. There was a strange apartment complex in an old run-down neighborhood in the Netherlands, just on the edge of the city limits. It was a tall, ugly block of concrete, home to a few low-income families and elderly. Probably because it was cheap to rent, or because they didn't care to move to something better. It had a strange apartment, all the way at the top. I'd actually been made aware of this place by my online group, and had been here before. I had informed the group in advance that I would be staying the night there again, this time with some friends. Those were the rules. Always keep the group in the loop and report the next day. I also knew the location-specific rules. Some places come with their own rules. We arrived at the apartment complex and made our way up to the 6-story concrete stairwell. All the apartments were on one side, so after every 3 stairs, you'd pass a row of green doors on one side. I can't imagine any of those apartments being very large. Each of them probably had only one small bedroom, a tiny kitchen, a tiny bathroom, and even a smaller balcony. The apartment we were looking for was all the way at the top. My 4 friends followed, 2 girls and 2 guys. When we reached what seemed like the top floor, the stairs continued. Not to the roof, but to a door on one of the other sides of the building. We basically had to climb one more concrete staircase with no railings, and then as you turned around, the stairs just ended. The last few steps felt more like a suggestion of a staircase. There were about 3 or 4 wooden boards jutted out from the concrete wall, all bent and crooked, leading to a small concrete platform. The platform was barely large enough for 2 people to stand, and that was where the door to the apartment was. And again, there was no railing there either. It did not seem possible. None of the other apartment doors were on this side. We had seen the blank wall from the outside. There was nothing behind this wall, and no way there could be an apartment. It was a blank wall, or at least it should be. And yet, there was a door there on the inside. I wonder if the other people that lived here ever noticed this door and the odd stairs leading up to it. Could they not see it? Did they not want to see it, perhaps? The last climb to this strange door was quite daunting. No railing and a very long drop below you. We helped each other up, one by one. And as we made our way up those last wooden steps, there was a small door tucked away in the wall on our left. Again, this door too was on a wall where nothing could possibly be. It looked like some sort of laundry or storage space by the size of the door. We referred to it in the group as a laundry door. You'd have to duck to go inside, which you were never supposed to do. I knew. My friends were immediately curious, so I warned them never to go in and to follow me into the apartment. I thought I was quite clear, but they didn't take it very serious. Curiosity got the better of them. My friend Katie opened the small laundry door and went inside before I could stop her. I was still standing in front of the door of the main apartment at the top, together with one of the guys, yelling as quietly as I could. I couldn't get to her in time, as there was still this giant gap with the board sticking out of the wall between me and her. The door closed behind Katie. We waited in silence. Then, after about a minute, my friend Kim wanted to go check on her. I pleaded to her not to go inside and called out to Katie. No answer. Kim called out to her as well, very loud. Still, no answer. Not a single sound. Kim decided to at least take a look. She opened the small door and ducked halfway inside to see where Katie was. Then we all heard the most horrifying scream. I'm not even sure if it was Katie or Kim screaming, but it was one of those screams of absolute horror. A scream that turns into ugly crying. Both of the girls emerged from the door in tears, red-faced, bawling their eyes out. They refused to talk about what happened despite my other friends grilling them. And I told the guys to give it a rest. We went inside the apartment at the top. It was quite large, mostly unfurnished except for what previous visitors had brought over, but the size of 3 normal apartments. It had a bare-bones kitchen with no running water, 1 bedroom with a bed, and a few empty rooms, a tiny bathroom, also no running water, and a large living room with 1 table. It had several dirty, smudged windows and no balcony as far as I could tell. I would be spending the night in the bedroom. My friends all brought sleeping bags and inflatable mattresses. More importantly, they also brought snacks, drinks, and music. I also instructed them to please not use the toilet as there was no way to flush. The night progressed without issues, and we talked a bit about other strange locations from both our own experience and those posted online by others. It was utterly bizarre looking out of the smudged windows of the apartment, knowing that the entire space was outside the physical dimensions of the building. It couldn't possibly exist, and yet somehow it did. There was a great view of the city, but it felt eerie to stand close to one of the windows, as if you were standing in mid-air. Katie and Kim were mostly quiet for the rest of the night. Eventually, the guys started grilling them again about the laundry door, as we called it. They didn't want to talk about it. They pressed them further until I got very upset. I told them that they were probably traumatized and that they were making it worse by asking them to relive what they saw in there. The guys turned to me and asked if I knew what was in there. I told them I wasn't supposed to talk about it and left it at that. Some places we visit come with explicit rules, and this was one of them. You don't ask why, you just follow the rules. But the guys were naturally curious, and I had no answers for them. In the pit of my stomach, however, I felt like I had already shared too much. You weren't supposed to talk about that space either. I prayed they weren't stupid enough to investigate it further while I was asleep. That night, I was awoken by some sounds. First the dangling of the latch on the front door of the apartment, then heavy footfalls in the apartment. I knew right away that we had made a big mistake. There was a deep sigh at first. Long arms opened the bedroom door partially. A lanky, somewhat humanoid shape looked into my room, its facial features hidden by a gray clay mask. I only got a faint glimpse of it. It said but one thing to me in a booming, guttural voice, cold and angry.
You are not welcome here anymore.
I waited and waited. But everything had gone quiet again. The shape had left, and it had left the front door open. I closed it and locked it. We left early next morning, and I haven't returned there since. In late November, I inherited a home and was in the process of clearing out what was left of the estate of my great aunt, who had passed away, when I stumbled upon a very odd DVD of an obscure show. The box was badly damaged, but the disc was in perfect condition. The mystery had piqued my interest, so I loaded it up on my DVD player to check it out, and there were no problems with starting the DVD except for a black screen, which only lasted 30 seconds. After the screen went to black, the text, Sammy the Cat, slowly rolled over the screen, followed by the year 2019 in a smaller font. And this was dumbfounding because my great aunt passed away in 2020, and we were only recently granted access to her estate. I'm told that many of these DVDs were watched by a child who would babysit when she still lived at home. She was at a nursing home from 2017 until she passed. After the title card, the screen quickly faded into white. The white fades into a shot of a lightly furnished, mostly empty room with a door to the left. Rather quickly, a large cat entered the frame. This cat is prominently white, but has some black patches and spots, and the screen was very blurry, so it's really hard to make out, but it appeared to be some kind of person in a cat costume. As it turned out, I noticed the large cheeks, googly eyes, and stitches on the front portion of his body. The odd proportions of the costume led me to believe it to be homemade. After turning around, the cat proceeds to stare in the direction of the camera for what felt like minutes until, again, the screen went white, which lasted for a solid minute. After a few minutes of white screen, the costume man is seen eating from a bowl of what appears to be raw meat. After emptying the bowl, the man leaves the frame, only to return about 30 seconds later holding the hand of a masked woman. The woman was silent and frozen, and I'd almost assumed that she was unconscious if not for her footsteps alongside him. The man leads her to the bedside and sits her down. He sits down next to her until he eventually starts to shake, and the shakes start to get worse and more aggressive, and the man is now slightly turned away from the woman and is once again sitting completely still. This must have lasted several minutes until he reached back and grabbed the woman by the neck. The woman lets out a blood-curdling scream that is so loud that the camera struggles to pick it up. The man covered his ears and began yelling. The man stood up, also pulling her up involuntarily. The woman is dragged by her neck and then dropped. By this point, my heart is racing and I'm confused and in shock at what I found. This felt too real and unhinged to be some kind of indie film, but filled with dread, I continued to watch it unfold. Little did I know, however, I soon wished I would have turned it off. After dropping the woman, the man frantically runs through a door to the left side of the main room, perhaps a small closet, because his right leg was still sticking out. When inside, he shuffles around for about 10-20 seconds until he suddenly turns around to reveal a long-barreled shotgun pointed directly towards the woman. The woman, still blindfolded, is sat on the floor, unsettlingly silent. There is an overwhelming sense of hopelessness that flows through my body as I watch her exist, completely oblivious to what's pointed at her. She isn't allowed to see it coming, and after standing for a moment, the man lowers his gun, casually walks over to the camera, and turns it off. The screen goes dark, and that is the last contents of the DVD. The woman was presumably killed in the scene because I heard a gunshot during it, and what followed was the blood-curdling scream of a woman, and the show ended. After the show ended, after a few days of boredom and some hesitation, I decided to report the disc to the local police department. They took it as evidence, but I'd be lying to say if I had heard anything back. I became concerned about what had happened to the woman, and I would prefer the closure of knowing rather than the uneasy ignorance that I've been living in for the past few weeks. I've been terrified of something I hoped wasn't true, but was afraid it might be. It was eating me alive. So yesterday, I decided to reach back into the box where I found the original DVD because I knew I hadn't looked very thoroughly the first time. And after anxiously searching for about 30 seconds, a convulsive shock is delivered throughout my entire body, and when I see it, to my dismay, I spotted yet another unlabeled damaged disc container sitting alongside the border of the box. I couldn't bring myself to touch it, and much less open it, and ever since then I've been feeling uneasy. I've thought about disposing of it so I don't have to deal with it, but I don't want to get rid of something that may potentially be the solution of a case. However, there was more than I thought. Without hesitation, I grabbed the DVD and inserted the damaged disc. I was hoping for more evidence, and these were the events that occurred after the first disc. The disc was broken, but started with a cat again, and he was talking to a 5-year-old boy. He asked the boy to follow him to the blender that was in the previous disc. He then picked up the boy and somehow turned him into a smoothie, and then the cat came back to his closet and put the long double-barreled shotgun into the closet, letting out a huge sigh as though he regretted what he had done, and the entire thing was cut, and the DVD ended. I started questioning the show and the fact that the man didn't even put it in the nearby shop for DVDs except for my great aunt's house. I turned off the DVD and took it out of my player and also reported it to the police department. I shared some of the evidence with them, and I have many questions after doing so, and upon visiting the police department, I found out that he was already serving time in prison on unrelated charges, and they are now investigating the contents of the second DVD of the show. I feared for my life. I had never seen anything unexplainable and weird until now, and to this day, a feeling of dread is always looming over me, and I feel like I did something wrong. When I tell people about this moment, they always give me strange looks, and they keep assuming I had a bad nightmare, which I didn't. At least from the later events, it was all a nightmare. I'm sorry. This should have been prevented. But due to my curiosity, I wanted to watch the show because I wanted to know what it was. I'm now feeling guilty for what just happened, even though I didn't do anything wrong. I was getting tired, so I went to bed. But the show stayed on my mind while I tried to sleep, and eventually it drifted off. As I was trying to go to sleep to forget about what happened today, I started dreaming, and this dream seemed normal at first. I will share you my dream if you can call it that. To me, I call it a nightmare. I'm sitting in my chair. My living room is decently furnished, and my TV is running in complete static. The static ended after 12 minutes. The old Warner Brothers logo flashed on the screen, revealing Sammy the Cat. I knew how this was going to go, but I don't recall seeing the Warner Brothers logo at the beginning. Was it made by Warner Brothers? Maybe it was a lost show. I don't know. I continued watching. The episode began with the camera pressed against Sammy's face with that giant fake smile. And what I could make out was that there were finger holes where the eyes are. The thing I never heard from Sammy was his voice.
Hello there. I would like to talk.
His voice was cheerful, deep, and loud. It sounded like he was old. He spoke out to me. I tried moving, but I was having those dreams where you couldn't move. He then said some sentences that made my heart break.
Your great aunt deserved to die.
When that sentence came out of his mouth, it broke my heart, and I held back the urge to cry.
I loved her. She left me. When she left me, I was broke. That's why I tried to make my own show to get my money back.
The voice was getting closer and closer to the screen. It almost sounded like he was whispering in my ear. I began to get chills. I could hold back the tears. Sammy saw me doing this, and then the camera zoomed in on what appeared to be a shotgun in his hand. I eventually stopped tearing up, looking blankly at the shotgun. My eyes were now shaking. Sammy pulled the trigger, the bullet hitting the camera and possibly the cameraman as well, as I heard a blood-curdling scream and saw drops of blood with the camera glitching. The television turned off, and I heard an aggressive knock at the door beside me.
I had nowhere to go. I accepted my fate. Sammy barged into my room holding a sledgehammer. The cat ran towards me and bashed me with it. I went to sleep, and now unconscious. I finally woke from the nightmare, and I'm happy I'm alive with no bruises or anything. I got the idea to call Warner Brothers because I saw their logo on the TV during that nightmare, so it was appropriate to do so. I dialed the company and asked them if they had ever heard of a show called Sammy the Cat or anything related to it. And I was met by an unexpected response. They said yes, and much to my shock, the guy who played Sammy was friends with people behind Warner Brothers, commonly known to people as the Warners. The show was in the works, but the workers noticed that the man was upset about something, so they decided to end production with Sammy the Cat entirely. Sammy's actor was suffering from schizophrenia, anxiety, and depression. If I'm being honest, I kind of feel bad for him, despite the fact that he was a serial killer. Now, keep in mind that if you call the company and ask them about Sammy the Cat, they will try to hide the truth by saying, "No, we don't have a show called that." I have the truth now. We've been on that call for so long. So I hung up. For the company's sake, don't call the company and ask them about the show, for goodness sake. And if you're wondering how I'm doing now, I'm feeling down as a person. I have depression, and I have anxiety about things. I do not have schizophrenia, however. Anyway, thank you for reading, and whoever's reading this, I wanted to get my story out there somewhere. And I just want you to know, be careful, and think before you watch things. If you want to watch these things, do it at your own risk. Hello, peoples. I want to give you a huge thank you for listening, and also a thank you to the authors JosephTheSnail and Mad Queen Malified. Mwah! Again, if you all have any stories of yours that you'd like me to read, just hit me up on anywhere on the internet. Salubaton and Creepy Kawatapi. Just leave a comment here. Hit the like, subscribe, and all that jazz. But be safe, you all. Remember, this world needs you.